Hey everyone, this is Ryder from Skip. I hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to get your PPP loan fully forgiven based on the latest information that came out yesterday from the SBA. Okay, if you watch this video till the end, you'll know exactly what to do on this form to submit it to your bank or lender to hopefully get 100% of whatever amount of loan you took out fully forgiven. Okay, there was brand new guidance issued yesterday, June 16th, by the SBA. Today's June 17th. And that guidance makes it even easier with a new, quote, safe harbor clause. Makes it even easier if you can't bring your full-time employees back to still get your loan forgiven. So I'm going to talk about that. More importantly, I'm going to walk you through the form and the things you should look out for. There is guidance that goes along with this, but hopefully if you watch this video till the end, you will not have any questions. It should be clear when I talk through everything. And if you haven't filled out a PPP application, if you haven't taken a PPP loan, brief announcement. Okay, there's 3 reasons why you should consider a PPP loan if you haven't yet, and if it makes sense for your small business. 3 quick reasons. Number 1, there is still $130 billion left in the PPP fund. Okay, so many of you were scared away. The first pot of money ran out. Maybe you didn't know if there was money left. There is money left, okay? There's $130 billion left for small businesses. Number 2, the forgiveness terms, like I'm going to talk about in this video, have been substantially relaxed. A lot of the questions about, I don't want to be stuck with a 1% loan over 5 years. I'm worried that I won't be able to get forgiven. It'll be too many hurdles. There'll be too many strings attached. A lot of those strings don't actually exist. I understand the fear. Part of our mission as a company is to help people fill out government forms, get government help easily to make sense of all this. We spent hours reading not only this form, but the 15-page amendment that was actually published on the Treasury website yesterday, and the 7-page guidance that went with this. So bottom line, if you're afraid of the red tape, don't be. We're going to make it easy. And the third reason, you have until June 30th to actually request a PPP loan. So you have less than 2 weeks left. On June 30th, the SBA will stop issuing loan numbers. Okay, so even if you've taken a PPP loan, but you know a friend or colleague or other small business that is considering it, someone you've talked to, pass this along to them, because those are the 3 reasons why they might want to consider applying this week if they haven't yet. And of course, if you know businesses that have taken a PPP loan, please share this with them, because hopefully if they watch this video, they won't have many questions. They won't have to bug you about how you got it forgiven so quickly. Without further ado, let's dive in. And for this video, I'm going to do a hypothetical scenario, because obviously showing is better than telling. So let's say we got widget company A. This is the company that's based in, let's say this is going to be the same information at the top here that you filled out on your original application. So if you had a DBA, your business EIN, business phone, contact, email, right? So that should match what you already submitted. Check your records. Hopefully you have not only this original document, but also the loan note from your lender or bank and the other closing documents. You should have all those in email, hopefully. The SBA PPP loan number is the 10-digit loan number that the SBA issued to your bank, and then your bank had you sign that note document. So let's put in 10-digit number here. I think that's 10. The lender PPP loan number in most cases is the exact same as the SBA PPP loan number. Most banks said, okay, for reference, we're going to use the same number the SBA issued us. In some cases, maybe banks have their own internal number. Again, that would be on the document that the bank made you sign, so you can check that. In this scenario, let's say you got $100,000. Now, this is just for easy math purposes. You may have gotten 20,000 or 200,000 or 2 million. And if you got 2 million, and by the way, you need to check this box. If you got 2 million, hopefully you have an accountant. And the Treasury said if you did get 2 million, they are going to audit you. They said any company, any small business that gets a PPP over 2 million, we're going to audit, aka they're going to look into due diligence. Now, of course, it remains to be seen what that means, but just be aware. Everything on this form needs to be accurate and truthful under penalty of perjury. So that's why I'm going through this in detail so you don't miss anything that jeopardizes your chances of forgiveness. Your loan disbursement date, let's say it was May 1st. Let's say you had 10 employees at the time application, and let's say you ended with 5 because you, frankly, didn't want to bring back all 10, or not that you didn't want to, but you couldn't because of the effect on your business the lockdown had. If you got an EIDL advance, you need to put that in here. So in this case, if we had qualified widget company A, our 10 employees, 1K each, we would have been eligible for a 10K advance. And then you'd put down your 10-digit EIDL application number. In most cases, it starts with 33 or 36 and is also 10 digits. And you need to put down your payroll schedule, say it was bi-weekly like most, and your covered period. So what 2.5 months you're going to use, or another alternative period, right? Didn't have to be the 2.5 months. It can be a longer period of time. But let's say in this case, April 1st to, let's say, June 15th, 2020. Okay, the 2.5 month period. And again, like I said, if it exceeds 2 million, check there. Now, this piece here is the calculation that will determine, that your bank will look at, or lender, to determine whether to fully forgive your loan. So basically, line 11 here, whatever amount is in line 11, we hope in this scenario it's 100,000, because that's what your bank is going to look at and say, okay, widget company A is going fully qualifies to get the 100,000 amount forgiven. If it's less, then the bank will say, okay, we can forgive 50,000, and then the rest of the 50,000 will be part of our 1% 5-year low interest loan. Okay, it's not the end of the world, but obviously you'd rather have this as a grant, essentially, or a fully forgiven loan, let's say. So here's how to get that line 11 to be 100,000 or whatever PPP loan amount you took out. So lines 1 through 4 here is where you put in your costs, your basically what the money went toward. Okay, this is the qualified expenses. So the new Flexibility Act again says that instead of 75% going towards payroll, you can get that down to 60%. The reason they did that was because many businesses said, oh, you know what, we have higher rent costs. We can't bring back employees, but we have high rent costs. So in this scenario, we could say that 40,000 went to high rent and lease, and only 60,000 went to payroll. Okay, before 75,000, now 60,000, and you'll still qualify. Let's say nothing went to interest or utility payments, which are the other qualifying expenses, by the way. So then the second part here is to adjust for full-time equivalent or salary hourly wage reductions. This is where the determination will be, did you meet qualifications? But the caveat being, none of this matters if your business was affected by basically the lockdowns, by federal guidelines to maintain social distancing, increase sanitation, etc. And that's the safe harbor. I'm going to talk about that in a couple minutes because that's the biggest thing on this form that will basically mean that nearly every business, at least every business I've talked to, should qualify for 100% forgiveness, because most businesses, virtually all, should qualify for that safe harbor. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but let me just show you this. Line 5, 6, and 7 would mean if on PPP Schedule A, which you have to submit also to your bank, when you do calculations, if you made reductions, you would have various numbers here. And if in line 7, what this comes out to, so first of all, let's say you had to reduce salary by $20,000. Okay, then you'd take this $100,000 here, subtract this $20,000, and you'd add line 6 is the addition of this minus line 5, and you'd get $80,000. Okay, then you have to put in the line 13 on Schedule A, which I will talk about in a minute. But let's say in this case you only qualified for bringing back half of your employees. Basically what you do is modify line 6 and 7, so your modified total, to get $40,000. You'd put in your PPP loan amount, which is $100,000. And in this case, your payroll cost, which would be $60,000 divided by 0.6, which would be $100,000. So that basically shows that you're qualified based on the payroll method. And you take the smallest amount of these 3 lines to get to line 11. Okay, so payroll, you got it. 60% went to payroll, no problem there. PPP loan, obviously that's the loan you took out. That's what you want to equal. This number 100,000. Your modified total is what's less. Okay, so in this scenario, basically turns out, based on the numbers you put down, you can only get 40,000 forgiven. Okay, so the key is how to get this to be 1, and virtually all of you should qualify to get this to be 1. If this is 1 and this salary reduction doesn't apply, you will have your loan fully forgiven. So let me show you on Schedule A how to do that. Okay, I'm going to skip over the certifications here, but obviously this is the most important part to verify the dollar amount which forgiveness is requested, was used for eligible expenses, includes all applicable reductions due to decreases in the number of full-time employees, etc. Okay, so read through this, but you basically need to initial all of it. There's nothing surprising. You just need to verify that you're being truthful. If you have any questions about this, please leave it in the comments. I'll be answering comments, by the way. If you have questions about this in general, put it in the comments. I'm going to try to just keep this to the tricky parts for the purposes of this video, or the potential gotchas. Then you sign, and then basically submit this sheet, this signed document, and PPP Schedule A to your bank or lender, and then they will review it and say, okay, great, widget company, you qualify for the $100,000 forgiveness. Now, here is the part where most of you will have to figure out and fill out to get an accurate full-time employee quotient, full-time equivalent employee quotient. That should be 1, and if it's 1, you will get your loan fully forgiven. So I'm going to cut to the chase here. You're going to fill out all these lines, and basically what you want is this line 13 to be 1, okay? Because that's the line that goes back up to the top form, and you multiply that by the eligible payout amount to hopefully get $100,000. So this is the most important part. These full-time equivalent reduction calculations here. If you satisfy any of the following 3 criteria, check the appropriate box, then skips line 11 and 12 and enter 1.0 on line 13. So this is basically showing you how you can enter line 1 on 13, get the loan fully forgiven. If you have no reduction in employees or average paid hours, check this box here. Again, this is during the covered period. If you have FTE reduction safe harbor 1, this is the new one that just came out. Here's what it says. If you were unable to operate between February 15th, 2020 and the end of the covered period at the same level of business activity as before February 15th, 2020, here it is, due to compliance with requirements established or guidance issued between March 1st and the end of this year, December 31st, 2020, due to compliance from guidance issued by Secretary of Health and Human Services, the Director of the CDC, or OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, related to the maintenance of standards for sanitation, social distancing, or any other worker or customer safety requirement related to COVID-19, check here. Okay, so this is virtually all businesses. The federal requirements mandated that you shut down and that you adopt new practices. This is not at the federal level, not only at the federal level, but also at the state level, county levels, new mandates for your business when reopening that would affect your level of business activity. I'd love to hear if this doesn't apply to you. I've talked to many businesses. They've all had their level of business activity hurt massively, and it's slowly starting to recover. But even in reopening, you're still going to have to, in many cases, maintain all of these new policies and procedures for your workers and for customers. Virtually all businesses, I believe, would fall under this and would be able to comply with the safe harbor rule and get the PPP loan forgiven. Okay, but let's say that doesn't apply to you. You still have the safe harbor 2 option, which is basically by the end of 2020, you will have your full-time employees back to the pre-COVID level. So in this case, we had 10 before in the widget company. By the end of 2020, we would have to have 10, and therefore we would have we would have this 1 as our FTE reduction quotient. And there's details on the Safe Harbor 2 on the worksheet here. I'm not going to go through all the steps, but it basically walks you through how to calculate that, 5 steps. And similar here for the top of the PPP Schedule A, which you will need to fill out. They have the employee worksheet here. You put in your employee's name, their identifier, which is the last 4 of their social, their compensation, their average FTE. So in most cases, if they're full-time, it'd be 1. If they were half-time, it'd be 0.5. And any reduction as a percentage as well. So the last thing I want to point out here is the one other gotcha, potential gotcha, is if you reduce salaries by over 75% of their pre-COVID salary, again, and this would be calculated in Table 1 here, basically that would affect this number on line 3. So you basically on line 3 here, you need to enter salary hourly wage reduction from PPP Schedule A worksheet, Table 1, I just showed you, if the average annual salary or hourly wage for each employee listed during the covered period or alternative payroll covered period was at least 75% of such employees' average annual salary or hourly wage between January 1st and March 31st, check here and enter 0 on line 3. So you want to make sure that you can check that so you can enter 0 on line 3 here. And then enter 0 here. So basically line 5, right? If this line 5 changes, then you're going to have to deduct that from the total amount you've paid out. And that's going to affect your forgiveness amount. Again, most businesses won't have that problem, but it's important to note. We hope this is helpful, and please leave questions. I'm going to be answering all the comments, and we want to make this as easy as possible for you to save time. The last thing we want to do is have you have to go through in-depth details through all these forms. Of course, please read them. It's always important for you to understand everything, but I just hope this answers some questions that might pop up. Please share with other businesses that have taken PPP loans or that are still thinking about taking a PPP loan, because hopefully for most, if not all of you, you will have your loans forgiven, and these loans will essentially be grants. I hope you're staying well, staying healthy. Thanks again for supporting us and subscribing, and take care.